The veteran's state of mind. Guys, we've done shows before about veterans' mental health and some of the things that I've went through, some of the things that I believe have helped other people. And I think being open, being vulnerable, sharing stories, and just being honest about what it's like to walk that path and talk about some of the hardships of transitioning out of military service into the civilian world, losing your sense of belonging that you once had and refinding it, refinding your purpose. All this stuff's important. Like I said, we've talked about this before on the show. I dedicated an episode to this. It's probably been a year already, but I got that phone call again. And this was just last week. And every veteran that served tours overseas knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that's a call saying, hey, you remember so-and-so in 2nd Platoon? Yeah. Just found out today he shot himself. I've received that call too many times over the last 2 to 3 years. And it seems like a decade removed from the wars is when it all began. And I don't know what that magic number is. I don't know why 10 years removed from service or 10 years removed from combat makes guys go down this dark hole. And maybe it's just a coincidence, but I've been losing teammates consistently since we hit the 10-year mark. This time was a Ranger named Scott Dusing. And Dusing was in Alpha Company 275 with me. It's been 20 years now since we got to 2nd Battalion together. It's crazy. It makes me feel old as fuck sometimes, but he was a stud Ranger. He was widely considered by his peers of being a go-to guy. I remember he had just got back from Ranger school and went and crushed a 300 APFT. Well, everybody else, when we get back from Ranger school, it's just a shell of our former selves, feeling like a broken, skinny, fat guy. And that was just Dusing. Dusing could crush, and he was a stud. But like so many relationships that you get, that you make throughout your military service, that's a moment in time. That's a phase of your life. You're close with these guys. You know these guys intimately. But then when you ETS or you move into different units or whatever your path may be, we lose touch with each other, and that's just the typical path. I haven't talked to Dusing since I left 2nd Battalion. And so I'm not going to sit here and talk about how he was my best friend and how close we were. But it doesn't matter what relationship I've maintained with him since I left 2nd Battalion. The fact that we lost another Ranger by his own hands is something that continues to haunt me every time I hear it. And when I get that message or when I get that call, it makes me shed a tear. It's hard for me to accept. And I don't know what the best way to combat this is. I don't know if anybody truly knows what the best way to combat this is. Because if we did, maybe it wouldn't be the epidemic that it is. But here we are. I got the call again. And I feel if I can do anything using my voice, using this platform to speak with and to veterans and talk about things and be honest and be open, if there's one person that's listening that does find themselves in that dark place, then this episode is worth it. I've said that about the show all along. If one person's life is enhanced or benefits from something that I put out through this show, then it is not done in vain, and it's well worth my time. It's well worth the energy. And so today we're going to talk about the veteran's state of mind. Getting out and watching ops on television, it was something that bothered me after I ETS. I've been very open about my military service. I got to do some cool stuff. I got to be involved in some cool missions. But I wasn't running and gunning like a lot of guys. You listen to Mike Glover stories and it's just like, fuck, man, that dude was in the shit constantly. It wasn't me, you know? I've been like, I didn't shoot another human being the whole time I was with 2nd Battalion. I didn't get in any up close and personal combat engagements until I was a private military contractor. And I don't even know. I probably did 100 missions with 2nd Battalion all throughout Afghanistan. But the reality of combat is, and you can consider this a blessing or a curse, right time, right place. And a lot of luck plays into who gets the great missions and who gets stuck on perimeter, because all positions are equally as important and they're all necessary. And so I found myself feeling like I kept missing the big game. Well, lots of my Ranger buddies were doing raids, recons, and ambushes and slaughtering motherfuckers. My platoon was patrolling the mountains between Afghanistan and Pakistan. We were in a little village called Berry Kaut for months and months. And we would patrol day in and day out, to the point where while we were there, it was a great experience, but it was exhausting. And it started to weigh heavy on guys like, man, when are we going to get into some legit shit? And that might sound strange to people that aren't veterans, that didn't walk that path and didn't live that life. But when you train for years to kill the enemy of our country, then you're in Afghanistan and you're on patrol, and there's Taliban and Al-Qaeda right across the border that's hopping across the border to do operations, and you keep missing them, and you keep missing the opportunity to make contact with them. And you hit this house and it's a dry hole, and you hit this next house and it's another dry hole. It just starts to be like, fuck, dude, when am I going to be able to get it on? And I've heard lots of other Rangers talk about this, because my experience was not unique. Like I said, right time, right place. Guys will go out there and get a bunch of fucking kills on their first deployment, and then other guys will do multiple deployments back to back to back and never fire their rifle. But one thing that once I put it all behind me and I started watching other things unfold, it started to bother me sometimes. I know when Osama bin Laden got killed, I was like, fuck. Every decision I had made militarily was incorrect, because if I had made the right decisions, I would have been on that helicopter, and I would have been on that raid, and I would have been part of something that was that historically significant. But all those thoughts of coulda, shoulda, woulda, what ifs, all those will do is eat a hole in you. Because there's nothing that you can do to ensure that you were at the right place at the right time, that you did get the awesome fucking missions, that you were part of something that made a historical difference, like the UBL raid. And same thing when Uday and Qusay got captured, or when Saddam got captured. You know, everybody wants the sexy missions. We always did. But those missions are few and far between. The amount of men that get to participate in something like that is pretty small when you consider the entire special operations community that's chomping at the bit to be part of something like that. And then when you talk to guys that were on missions that I believe did make a difference and do have historical value, oftentimes they don't even feel like they offered much or they were part of something. You know, if you listen to Andy Stump talk about the Jessica Lynch raid, he's kind of like, yeah, you know, like I didn't have a big role in it. I didn't do much. Yeah, I was there, but the credit doesn't go to me. I didn't do anything really. And it's like, I think that that's just inherently who we are. Regardless if you got to physically be there or not, you feel like your contributions personally may not have been that great. and that the mission really falls on the shoulders of all the other men that were there and contributed and made it happen. But I know a lot of people, when we leave this lifestyle, we move on to something else. For me, it was law enforcement. There's a void. There's a void in your life because not only are you not getting to be part of the sexy operations, but you're not even in the mix to get that phone call to be part of something. And a lot of veterans' identity started to develop around who they were in the teams or in the regiment. And I think that is something that is important. It's necessary for you to feel while you're part of that. But we also have to learn how to move past that, because the only alternative to learning to move past that in a healthy manner is to be in the teams for the rest of your life. So I don't care if you do 4 years or you do 40 years, if you make it out alive, one day you will have to confront the fact that you're not who you used to be. You're not who you used to be anymore. And now you have to figure out who you're going to be moving forward. And if the person you want to be moving forward can't accept the fact that you are no longer a Ranger and you are no longer a Navy SEAL, and you want to cling to those times and you want to cling to who you were, what you're going to find is you're out of balance. Your life, it becomes out of balance because you were clinging to something that you are no longer. And that's why I always tell people, cherish your military service, honor it, respect the fact that it formed you into who you are today, but also understand that was a phase of your life. And that phase is now over, and that door is closed. Now, obviously, that was the foundation of who you are for a lot of people. I know that the Ranger Regiment built a foundation underneath me that helped the trajectory of my life from that moment forward, ever since I left the regiment. And I'm forever grateful for that. But I don't identify myself as an Army Ranger. I don't wear Operation Iraqi Freedom hats and Operation Enduring Freedom hats with my pins and my ribbons on them. I don't need people to know that, hey, at one point in my life, this is who I was and this is what I did. Now, will I talk about it? Will I be open? Do I enjoy reminiscing? Of course I do. Those were wild times. Those were good times. I built relationships with some of the best people on planet Earth. But that doesn't negate the fact that those times are over, and I have moved past those times. So once you make the determination to move past those times, for whatever reason it is, maybe you did one enlistment and the military just wasn't quite your niche. Maybe you got injured and you were forced out. That one can be even harder for some people to take. Maybe you got out because your wife wanted you to get out, but you didn't really want to. It was something that you foresaw yourself doing for multiple enlistments. And now your choice to leave that lifestyle behind is attached to somebody else's expectations of you. There's a million different things that we can confront as individuals on why we are where we are. But everybody's path is different. But regardless of what was different about those paths, they all have similarities. And the similarity is this. We have to understand that once one mission is over and we close that door, it's time to move on to the next mission. I have a lot of people ask me all the time, like, man, I miss the brotherhood. I need community in my life like we had in the military. I don't have friends anymore like I had in the military. I don't have a sense of belonging anymore like I had in the military. And I want you guys to know something. I want you to know that you don't have that sense of belonging anymore for one reason and one reason only. And that is because you were not putting yourself out there and you were not seeking it and you are not building a community that will fill that void in your heart and fill that void in your life. Because there are good people out there everywhere. There are communities of people all across the world that are like-minded, that strive to build each other up, accomplish goals together, create friendships, create tribes of people. It's this tribal connection that we all inherently desire. And I think it's in our DNA. I think we needed to rely on people to our left and our right for survival from the beginning of time. Literally since the beginning of time, to gather food, to hunt, to have security, to be able to build communities, build shelters, stay warm, fight off rival hordes. All the things that ensured survivability from the beginning of time is something that is something that required competent people to your left and your right that had your best interests in their heart. People that would be there for you. People that would have your six. People that would die for you. And that's a primal thing that we inherently need as human beings. And if you think about it, we had that from the beginning of time all the way up until what? I mean, even 100 years ago, you could argue that without a community of good people around you, life is exponentially more difficult. And if you look what's happened over the last 100 years, technology has exploded. People have started living on top of each other in apartment buildings. We have people that we share buildings with, people that lay their head down at night on their pillow, that as the crow flies are probably less than 5 feet where you were laying your head down to go to sleep. And chances are you don't even know that person's name. You don't even know who they are. You don't even know what they're about. And now we have arrived at a place where we are surrounded by people. We are surrounded by technology. We are surrounded by information. But even in this midst of all of these things engulfing us, we are missing relationships with people. We are missing connection with people. And you can have all the people in the world on Instagram. You can be a top performer at your job. You can be financially successful. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but what I am saying is those things are not going to fill the cup of having a strong sense of community and having people around you that add value to your life. And then you reciprocate that by adding value to their life. I think veterans exasperate this because they got a taste of what true connection with other human beings feels like. They got a taste of it at a young age. Most of us enlisted at 17, 18, 19 years old. And I don't care if you did a 4-year enlistment or you did 10 or you did a career, you got a taste of being part of something that was bigger than you and being part of something where the people that you shared that experience with were all mission focused. And by mission focused, I mean people are sharing a mission together. When you share a mission together with a group of people, it bonds you. When you go through hardships together as a group of people, it bonds you. And it bonds you in a way that I probably can't even articulate into this microphone. But if you've been there and you've walked that path, you know what I'm talking about. So then when you find yourself removed from that life and you're no longer bonded with these people that share a mission, you start to feel like something's missing. And you start to feel like something's missing because something is missing. You had it, you could feel it. It's almost tangible, and now it's gone. So how do you get that back into your life? How do you find that connection with people? And I can tell you guys, it starts with putting yourself out there and making sure that you're putting in the work to connect with people, to build those tribes, to invest time, energy, and effort into finding the right people that you can build up, and then they can build you up as well. And together, you guys are stronger. This isn't going to be a big jiu-jitsu podcast because all of my podcasts are jiu-jitsu podcasts. But what I can tell you is, for me personally, this is one path that has worked for me. But I know damn well that it has worked for many other veterans. And jiu-jitsu is where I found the ability to fill that void. On the mats, everybody is there with a shared purpose. Their shared purpose is to train, to become mentally and physically tougher, to develop resolve, to figure out how to solve problems under stress, both physical, mental, and emotional stress. And when you share that experience with 20 people 5 days a week, you now know what those people are made of. You now know where they're strong. You now know where they're weak. You know what you can do to potentially defeat them. They know what they can do to potentially defeat you. And even though it's in a controlled environment and it's a training environment, and there is not serious repercussions to winning or losing when you're at practice, the emotions behind that stuff is real. The body doesn't distinguish between real fights and fights at practice. Now, our minds can distinguish. Our minds understand this is one of my best friends, and I'm simply going as hard as I can until I tap him or he taps me. But I can tell you the emotions behind that and what your body feels, the endorphins, the chemicals that are flowing through your veins, they feel like you're in a real conflict. So when you share conflict with other people repetitively, it lets you know who that person is, and it lets that person know who you are. And it's important. You know, I watched the Kamal Usman and Colby Covington fight last night. And those guys talked a lot of shit back and forth. They did not like each other. But they beat the fuck out of each other for 10 rounds between the last two fights they had. And at the end, they gave each other a hug. And both fighters said post-fight, I don't care what our differences are. I don't care how much we've disliked each other in the past. When you share that experience with another man, you can't help but arrive at a place where you respect that person. That's probably the most dramatic example that I could come up with. But sharing an altercation, even in a training environment, or sharing hardship, or sharing adversity with people, that is what bonds us. And if you think about it, the reason that that's how our brains work is because since the beginning of time, the harder the experiences were, the more we needed the people that we were going through those experiences with. So it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, but it does have to be something. And I'm not here to tell you what your something is. You have to walk that path. You have to find what that something is. Is it mentoring people on hunting trips? Is it forming a downhill mountain biking team? The reason I say that is one of my ranger buddies who's been on the show several times, Toby Folk. He went all in with mountain biking. He became very good at it. And he built a circle of people that he shared that with regularly. That was his outlet. Those were his people. That was his activity. And that's where he was able to blow off steam and reset and share his afternoons with these people doing the same activity with the same goals. I honestly think that it does have to have a physical nature to it to a certain extent. You know, you can go and sit around and discuss things and have bonfires and connect with people. And I think that's an important part of it. But I think part of the process is there does have to be an element of physicality to it. So you have to find what that is. The internet is a cesspool. I think we can all agree that a lot of darkness comes out of Facebook and Instagram, a lot of hate, a lot of people arguing about everything, a lot of people wanting to be right, a lot of people that don't want to learn about an opposing point of view, but they want to be right. And if that's where you invest your time trying to be right instead of trying to grow as a person, that's not going to build your spirit up. That's going to make you become more anxious. It's going to make you become more paranoid, less trustful of people. And I don't say this to say turn the internet off, because inevitably in this life, in the words of Charles Dara, you will find what you are looking for. So if you log into Instagram and you want to argue with people because Joe Biden appointed a dude as the Secretary of Health that's morbidly obese and it blows your fucking mind, you can go do that. And I'm not saying that I don't do that too. But I also understand that it is not serving me in a way that other activities do serve me. So it becomes a dichotomy and it becomes a balancing act. So find the right people and invest your time online doing things that will serve you. I have found some of my favorite people in the world over the last year and a half through Instagram. It starts with a conversation. It starts with a DM. And then you start texting, and then you say, fuck, let's get together sometime. I consider Mitch Aguiar one of my best friends on planet Earth now. And it started with a DM on Instagram. And now him and I have traveled all over the country together. We've done jiu-jitsu tournaments together. He stayed at my house. I've stayed at his house. And just like that, a relationship was born because I connected with the right person on the internet. And you can do that too. I don't care what you're into. I don't care if it's fighting and jiu-jitsu like what we're into. You can find people that share your goals, your passions, and want to be on the same trajectory. You find the people that do that, and together, the trajectory becomes even enhanced and you grow together. But if you just get on to hate and be bitter and be pissed off all the time, that's easy to find on the internet. And you will be full of hate, bitterness, and you'll be pissed off all the time. And then not only if that's the energy that you are taking in from your interaction with people online, there's a good chance that that may be the energy that you're taking in from how you interact with people in real life, face to face. Understand that if your life is not in a good place right now, there's a good chance the biggest person to blame is who you see when you look in the mirror. And I don't say this to berate or trying to make veterans feel like they're fucking pieces of shit or they're making bad decisions. I say it because only you are the one that can change the trajectory of your life. And if you find yourself in a dark path and you find yourself in a dark place, it's up to you to crawl out of that hole that you've dug. And when I say things like that, sometimes people take offense to it because sometimes people find themselves in deep holes that they feel like they can't get out of. But you have to have hope. You have to know that you can get out of it. And telling yourself that you can't, it's your brain playing a trick on you. It's your brain telling you a lie to keep you down. And I don't know what that part of your brain is, but I have it. That's why I feel qualified to talk about it, because I have that part in my brain that tells me you're a fucking piece of shit. You're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to succeed. You're a burden to other people in your life. Other people in your life would probably be better off if you were gone. You start to tell yourself these things because that part of your brain, the part of your brain that wants to keep you down, tells you those things. And if you allow that voice to have validity, you start to believe that that is your reality. Perception is reality. Perception is not always truth. So if you perceive that you are that person that you're telling yourself that you are, suddenly you are that person. Suddenly you start to realize maybe the things that I've been telling myself are true. And I would do my friends and my family a service if I wasn't just here dragging them down anymore. And what is it about your life that drags them down? Are you a violent person? Do you have outbursts? Do you cause confrontations with people? Are you hard to be around? Do people not enjoy being around you because of your negativity or your problems that you attribute to PTS? What is it about your behavior that makes you feel like you're a burden to your people? Are you drinking alcohol all the time? Are you not being a good husband because of your addiction or because of your outbursts? Are you not being a good father because you prioritize alcohol? Or you prioritized being in that place of poor me over prioritizing being in that place of I need to be there for my fucking children. Some of my friends that have committed suicide have children. So the story that they told themselves when they put that gun into their mouth was that these children that love me, these children that I love, are better off if I was dead. You convince yourself that that's the truth. And then you start making those thoughts become reality. Those thoughts then become action. And the scary thing about suicide is, I believe the statistic is of people that have shot themselves or tried to hang themselves or take a bunch of pills and lived by the graces of God, said that they contemplated the suicide for less than 10 minutes. So a 10-minute period of time in your life, you have decided to throw everything else away. I wouldn't buy a house in 10 minutes. I wouldn't propose to a woman in 10 minutes. I don't think I'd accept a job in 10 minutes. Major decisions in your life, they need to be well thought out. You need to invest time and energy to make sure that this is the right path for you. But the fucked up thing about suicide is it is a moment in time that when you take that action, there is nothing that can be done about it. So I think about my own path. I think about when I was serving overseas, when I did become a darker person, when my soul became darkened by the nature of the job. I used to see kids get killed in Ramadi, and I'd laugh about it. The whole team would laugh about it. And we'd say, fuck those kids. In 10 years, they'd be trying to set an IED in anyways. So it looks like we avoided that from ever taking place. Fuck them. Why would we feel like that? Is that really how we felt? Or is that a defense mechanism? A defense mechanism to look at an innocent young life that was taken too soon And instead of feeling those emotions and processing that, it's a lot easier to say, fuck them. And by saying fuck them, at that time in your life, you think that that's what makes you tough. That's what gives you grit. Watching people die doesn't fucking bother me. Fuck them. But is that really where you want to be as a human being? So callous that a child's life doesn't mean a fucking thing to you? Is that a good place to arrive at emotionally? Now, I know it's a balancing act, because if you do an operation and you see a bunch of kids die, like I've seen on a specific operation that I'm thinking about, and now I'm so distraught emotionally that I become combat ineffective. What good am I? What good am I if I can't go out the next day and perform at my highest because of something that happened yesterday? So I do think that maybe compartmentalizing that stuff, burying it down deep, that might be how we have to go through deployments. That might be the only way to be able to live that life and not go fucking crazy. But what you have to realize, there is going to come a time when you need to think about those things. You need to process those things. And you need to realize it's okay to come to the conclusion that, man, my headspace at that phase of my life probably wasn't the correct place to be in. You have to be able to know that as you grow and you develop as a man or as a woman, and you grow and you seek, or you develop wisdom, you start to become a better version of yourself. You need to look back on those experiences and understand what that truly meant and how that truly impacted you, and why those things are still buried deep down inside of you. If you can't look at those situations and come to the conclusion that the mindset you were in back then was toxic, you might not be in the right state of mind. You have to ask forgiveness of yourself, and you have to be willing to understand that what you did in those times does not define you. What happened during those days is not who you are. It is an experience that we went through. It is an experience that we shared. And it's something that you have to give yourself forgiveness on. And I don't mean direct forgiveness. Like in my specific incident, our motorcade caused a car to flip during an operation, and a bunch of kids were ejected from a vehicle and they were dead right there on the streets. I don't know if I need to ask myself forgiveness. It wasn't me that directly caused their death, but I want to forgive myself for being so callous and not valuing them as people. You know, our nationalities are important, and people hold a lot of pride in who we are. But speaking from the veterans community, how many times have you guys heard the phrase, kill them all and let God sort them out? That's cool to say. That's fun to put on a t-shirt. But let's be honest about what we're talking about. We're talking about men, women, and children, human beings, just like you, just like me, that are living a life. They have goals, they have aspirations, they share love, they share fear. They're trying to do the best they can. We're trying to do the best we can. That doesn't mean I've become some soft pussy, some liberal cuck. There are men that I would give anything to shoot right in the fucking face today. But we need to know that humanity as a whole is good. You have to believe that. You have to know that. That's what gives us hope. There are rotten eggs in every culture, in every team, in every unit, in every part of this world. But the overwhelming majority of people, they want what we want. It's important to recognize that. It's important to know that your enemy, as we called them, they were fighting for what they believed to be right. Now, does that make it right or does that make it wrong? That's not what I'm saying. If I could go back and shoot ISIS fighters tomorrow, I would be getting on a bird. Because I believe those people are fundamentally flawed in their belief, and it is not congruent with the direction I would like to see the world go. But that stuff is nuanced. And you need to think about it, and you need to unpack it. And you need to think about how it made you feel. And you need to think about what you can do to feel the emotions that we should have felt 10 years ago. Nobody has ever arrived in a healthy state of mind by burying shit down deep and putting off the facade of, I'm good. I got it. Don't worry about me. You know, another thing that has plagued our community, and I learned this through a counselor. I've been a proponent of counseling. Go to counseling if you're feeling any of the feelings that you're feeling, or any of the feelings that I'm referring to or discussing. They will teach you things about yourself. They will give you tools. But one thing that my counselor, her name was Beth, she said to me, and it was powerful. She said, you need to realize when you're thinking about these emotions, when you're dealing with some of the problems that occurred in your past, you need to think about it as a big black cloud over your head. And you're in the storm, and the storm is pissing on you. It's dark. It's cold. You look around. You can't see a way out. And inside of that storm is where you start to lose hope. Inside of that storm, you lose the hope. That puts you on the trajectory of, I'm better off if I'm not here. I don't want to be in the storm anymore. And my only exit strategy is to end myself. That will bring me peace. That will bring me happiness. And it'll bring me peace and happiness for one reason, because I won't be surrounded by darkness. You need to understand something, is that the clouds will part, the darkness will turn to light, and the sun will shine through on you again. If you're willing to walk the path, and you're willing to fight for yourself, and you're willing to create a scenario of hope inside of your heart, it is inevitable that the storm will pass and the light will shine on you again. You know, one thing that is very common amongst veterans is the fact that we accepted our own demise. We accepted our own death. I know it was common amongst my peers, and we would joke like, this is the deployment that's going to get me. And on its surface, it might not seem like a big deal. And to tell you the truth, I liked that mentality. Because when I was deployed in Ramadi, I was already dead. And I would tell myself, this is the deployment that's going to get you. And I just hope when it gets me, it's quick and I get shot right between the fucking eyes. And it's like turning a light switch out. And then that's the end of Greg Anderson. But when you accept your own death for days, weeks, months, years, your brain almost thinks you were supposed to die. Again, perception is reality. And if you perceive that you will die on deployment, that becomes what you believe to be truth and fact. And now it's almost like you're waiting for it to happen at some point. I know guys that wanted to die overseas because they said that's a warrior's death. Or something that I've heard more often than that is once we get home and you're working in some corporate office and you're commuting and your wife's pissed off at you, like, fuck, I wish I'd fucking died in Afghanistan with my brothers. So not only did you almost prophesize your own death, but since it didn't happen, some people almost feel like, damn it, I made it out. I wasn't supposed to. It's like Lieutenant Dan on Forrest Gump, right? He was mad at him for saving him. This was my fucking destiny. I was supposed to die in battle. And there's a part that I can understand. A hero's death, there's something admirable about it. There's something that men in our line of work almost crave. So when you get home and you do find some corporate job and you're working in a cubicle and you're commuting 2 hours a day and the bills aren't getting paid and your car broke down, suddenly you're surrounded by a bunch of problems that seem insignificant and they seem like bullshit, and they compound and they compound. And then you and your wife are in a fight, or you and your ex is taking your kids. And it's like, you know what? Fuck all these problems. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And I've been there. I've been there. I can think of 2 specific instances in my life where I've looked down the barrel of my Glock thinking, just fucking do it. I remember looking down the barrel and seeing the hollow point that was chambered from the other end. And to this day, I remember thinking, that's weird looking. I've never seen a Glock from this perspective before. I didn't know that's what it looked like. I've been there, and there's plenty of people that are listening, and plenty of people that are veterans that have been there as well, but will never tell you that because there's a stigma attached to it. We look at this as weakness. We look at this as being broken to the point of maybe you're irreparable. I've always wanted to be a tough guy. I wanted to be someone that people respect. I wanted to be a leader in my community. And I always thought that to be that person, I had to be resilient. I had to be physically and mentally tough. I had to be able to fight people. I needed to be in shape. I needed to know how to shoot. All these things that we attribute, or attributes that we believe a tough human being should possess. And I think that that's true. I think you do need those things. But the older I get, the more I realize, while all those things are true and all those things are important, the most important trait that you can carry as a man that is going to let other people see you for who you are and trust you and believe in you is vulnerability. Once I've realized that vulnerability is the key to succeeding, I am no longer ashamed to tell the stories of looking down the barrel of my Glock. That doesn't give me I don't feel any anxiety putting that out to the 40,000 people that'll hear me say this. Because that was me. That was who I was. That was the path that I walked. And being able to break that cycle and get out of that path is extremely rewarding for me. And now as a 41-year-old man, I feel like I am probably emotionally and spiritually at the best place I've ever been. Physically, I can't say the same because Father Time is unforgivable. And even though I'm not what you would consider old yet, I'm certainly not who I was. But that's okay. That's okay, because the journey of life, as your soul and your mind grow, your body's probably going to go in the opposite direction. And to tell you the truth, we should be grateful that we lived a life long enough to see our body start to fail. I know plenty of people that were killed in their 20s, fighting overseas. They never had the opportunity to grow old, develop those aches and pains, and then just develop the wisdom that comes along with walking the warrior's path later in life. You know, it's easy to become detached and unemotional. That's a very common thing that we see within the veterans community. Even people's wives and family members will tell you, I've received emails and they're like, he's just not the same person anymore. He's not available anymore. I can't communicate with that person anymore. That's because you're putting up walls. You're not allowing other people in. And just like I said earlier, there's nobody that ever succeeded by burying shit down deep and putting on a facade of I'm good. Another thing that never fucking assisted anyone in moving past these points of depression and these points of PTS is putting up walls and not being open with other people. The people that are close to you. The people that deserve to know how you're feeling. For every fucking veteran out there that is in this spot right now, I promise you, if you go to your wife, if you go to your mom, if you go to your daughter and you say, listen, this is really uncomfortable for me to say because it's outside of who I have created, it is outside of who I believe I am as a man. It is outside of the facade that I put off to my community. But I'm not doing well right now. I'm afraid. I'm sad. I feel broken. I want to cry. Nobody that gives a shit about you would hear those words and think that you are weak or think that you are pathetic or look at you in a less of a light and think you're less capable of a man. You go to people with vulnerability, you're going to see the opposite to be true. Those people in your life are going to realize this is his step at getting better. Those people in your life are going to hear those words and they're going to support you. All the stuff that you think could negatively happen as a result of being vulnerable with the people closest to you is another lie that your brain is telling you. The people that love you would love the opportunity for you to be honest about what the things that are affecting you, the things that are impacting you. They would love for you to be honest about you feeling like you have an inability to weather the storm that you're in. And when you surround yourself with the right people and you're open to the right people and you are vulnerable with the right people, they will lift you up. They will lift you up and they will support you. I almost ruined my own marriage with this shit. I wasn't fun to be around for a while. And it's a conglomerate of reasons. I think my overseas experience was one piece of the pie. I think being a law enforcement officer was another piece of the pie. I think not sleeping well, not getting good rest was another piece of the pie. Maybe not being physically as fit or as active as I would like to have been. My body wasn't what I wanted it to be. That's another piece of the pie. But before you know it, You got 4, 5, 6, 7 slices of things that are causing problems in your life. You got a whole fucking pie in front of you that is made up of shortcomings in your life. And it feels overwhelming and it feels like you can't get out of it. And what you do is you project those shortcomings, you project that frustration, you project that anger onto the other people in your life. You project that anger onto people on the highway. You know, I've had some road rage incidents where I'm simply lucky that they resolved the way that they resolved. Some of them resolved with punching people in the face and kicking in fenders and screaming, "fuck you" at people. I've wanted to get in shootouts with people on the road, hoping that they'll pull a gun on me so I can fucking shoot them before they shoot me. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Anyone feel that stuff? I know you do, because inside of my veterans community that I'm close with, the roads are one of the most triggering places on planet Earth. But we don't interact with our families well. We don't interact with our communities well. We don't interact with our children well. We don't interact with people on the road well. And we think that we're going to arrive at a place where we can get out of this hell that we've created. Good luck. Good luck. It's not how this world works. You have to be willing to take the first step of ownership and vulnerability and understanding you need to break the cycle. You need to find your new mission and your new journey, and you need to take the first step of that journey. You know, for a long time, I had people in my life that I attributed a lot of my success to. The right people built me up. The right people showed me love. The right people were in my corner. And I started to think, thank God for those people. Because without the right people in my corner, would I have made it out of this depression? Would I have been able to break that cycle? But what I've realized is putting the right people in the right places in your life, that is your doing. That is a result of you taking the time and effort and energy to build relationships with the right people and build the right network to start to climb out of the hole that you've dug. And the reason I say that, I don't say that to diminish the importance of having that network and having those right people in your lives. But the reason I think it's important to articulate that is because if you're looking for someone to fucking save you, you need to know no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to fucking save you. You're going to find some girl that just falls in love with you and boom, all your problems go away. Or you're going to find some guy that becomes your best friend and you start shooting and training and boom, all your problems go away. No one's coming to save you until you're willing to save yourself. Once you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I'm ready. I'm ready to change. I'm ready to let the past be the past, and I'm ready to find a future that works for me, a future that works for my goals, my aspirations, my family. The people in your life are going to see that. They're going to feel it. It's a vibe thing. It's an energy thing. It's the right frequency. That might sound like hippie shit, but when you're around the right people, the right frequency, you feel connected with them without even talking. You're not going to find that connection when you're vibrating on a lower level. You're not going to find the connection with the right people when you're still stuck in poor me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm a burden. That's a low vibrating frequency. And when you're vibrating at that frequency, you will not be harmonious with the correct people that are going to build you up and pull you out of the hole that you're in. So it's up to you to do the work. You need to be the one that understands you need to change. You need to change the trajectory. You need to find a new mission. You need to find a new lease on life. You need to realize there are people that are relying on you to be here. But being here doesn't mean your physical body's here. It means you are emotionally available. It means that you are becoming a person that those people are going to gain value from investing in. And that is when you get to gain value when they invest in you. It's weird that it takes us 20 years of war to be able to put this stuff together. And I know that the military is doing more out processing than they used to. I got home from Afghanistan and it was like, go to CIF, turn your shit in. Thanks for coming. That was it. Bye, guys. Good game. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time. But that shit will come back. So if you're newly separating from the military, think about the things that I've talked about. You might listen to this and you might think, dude, he's fucking crazy. I don't feel any of that stuff. And you might not feel it. Not yet. You might not feel it yet. You know, initially I didn't miss belonging necessarily. Because I was always busy with stuff. If you keep yourself busy enough, you think you're good. But what are you doing with that time? If it's busy work and you're just keeping yourself occupied by partying and by working out and by staying busy, all that stuff can be good, right? But there's going to come time when you go home, you're alone, you're laying in your bed, nobody's around, and you're going to have to think about if you're happy with who you are and what you're doing and where you're at and the trajectory that you want your life to go. Have those hard conversations with yourself. Write down goals. Write down aspirations. Develop plans. Invest in yourself right now. And I'm not saying this is a magic moment that once you say, you know what, I'm going to be better. I'm going to start taking care of myself. I'm going to start contributing to my family. I'm going to be better with my wife. I'm not saying you make that decision and boom, everything starts to fucking work. Because for every step you've taken downward and every shovel of dirt you've thrown out as you've dug your hole deeper and deeper, the process may be just as slow coming back out on the other side. It might take months of work. It might take years of work. You may have relationships that you've damaged to the point where simply telling people, hey, I'm going to change, those are words, and they might not believe you. Those words need to be followed by action. But the first step to action is thinking about it, coming up with a plan, and then putting that plan into motion. Guys, I know the solo episodes, I sit here, I just rant, spend an hour and 3 minutes, but this is an important one for me. This is something that I feel like our veterans community needs to give each other rawness. We need to be real. We need to talk to each other about what the fucking problems in our communities are. And we need to figure out how to put the wars behind us and find a new, exciting, passionate fucking calling in your life that we can enjoy into our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Every phase of our life should feel rewarding. Every phase of our life should be offering us things to keep us engaged and keep us learning and keep us growing. So I'll leave you guys with this. If you're in that dark place right now, please reach out to me. Again, I'm not going to be the guy that saves you. That's not my role. That's your role. But it can start with a conversation. You can start to get your life trajectory changed. You can start to build yourself up and believe in yourself by having good conversations with the right people, bouncing ideas around, helping each other. And we have to be there for each other to help the individual person finally be able to stand on their own 2 feet and take that first step on their journey to recovery. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it as always. I think this is going to be an important episode. It'll touch some people in a way that I believe will help them. And like I said at the beginning, if my words can help one person change the trajectory of their life, then this episode is a win. Thanks for listening.